There we go. You guys see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so 3 things. This is just my model of how I see teams, how I see that teams can do well on the competition if they just have this model in mind. Again, this is my personal opinion. This does not represent the headquarters or the judging committee. So 3 branches: product, brand, and competition. Product, I'm saying product, not project, because project is a very vague term. It's a huge umbrella that includes literally everything we do for the project. Product is a bit more specific, things like what are we trying to make, who is going to use it, is anyone going to use it? And then that basically is composed of 3 things. We have the synthetic biology, which forms the very base of the product. Then we have, we need a platform to make sure that the humans can interact with, with the biology part, which is where the hardware comes to play. And then we have the UX, the user experience, which is how everything fits together to turn a technology into an experience, something somebody can actually use. Then we have the brand. As the Jamboree is nearing 400 projects, we have to think about the brand if we want people to remember us. And also, many of these projects, not only will they be based on the very same science, like quorum sensing, toll switches, etc., but also they will be trying to solve the same problem. Like, for example, tuberculosis. The number of projects I've seen trying to solve the very same problem. No names, no one's going to be named here. And that is, we have the market research, the name and the logo, of course, and the wiki. So in the grand scheme of things, this is where the wiki comes in. And the market research is basically, so last year, for example, Sheffield, we were doing a microplate reader, and we weren't sure if that's for research labs or if that's a learning kit, a teaching tool. And that is a big difference. So market research is where you get the data to answer that question. Is it one or the other? And then finally, we have competition, which is basically the medals and the rubric, because it doesn't matter if your project is cool, if you don't tick all the boxes, you won't get anything. So with that out of the way, my first point, which is the product. What's the product? What we're trying to do with the wiki is to advertise our product. So if we don't know exactly what this is, or if there's any user for it, it's really hard for the wiki to do its job. The wiki is for the judges, yes, but so long as the very specific URLs are there, that's it. You just have to focus on having a good product. So this story comes from a series called Mad Men, and this is a marketing firm, and they're having a brainstorming session, a rap session about a product. So they got this big client, and they want to come up with a strategy, with an ad to advertise margarine. This is the product of the big client. And margarine is basically the shittier brother of butter. So Ted, the guy on the right, is the boss, and he got the group, they created group together, and he says, okay, let's do a free form rap session on margarine. Just, tell me what comes off your mind when you hear margarine, and keep this coming. So they say, my grandmother, yellow, soft, doesn't smell, it's not butter, nobody likes it. It was invented for Napoleon because the army was always on the move, and butter spoils, but margarine doesn't. And basically they spent 40 minutes just to realize they don't really know much about margarine, really. And then the good idea started, where Ted said, we should probably focus on all the facts and figures and health stuff and health benefits. And then somebody else says, no, we should focus on the price. But then obviously the counterpoint was, we cannot focus on price because all margarine products are super cheap. So you can't really say one has the premium product. Then someone says, well, we should focus on the taste. Then of course, the counterpoint to that was that we can't focus on taste because all margarine tastes way shitter than butter. So what's the point? So as I was, sitting binging this on Netflix, I thought, I could do that for our project, OpenLux last year, the microplate reader. So I pull a piece of paper out, and at the very center of it, I write our product, which was the microplate reader. And I say, okay, what things do I think about? We have open source, then we have bacteria and OD600. We have that is cheap because, that was our big selling point. A cool UI, user interface. You can have it on all devices. And then at the very bottom, I realized we have a problem. We didn't know who this microplate reader was for. Was it for universities and research labs? Was it for teaching? Was it for hospitals, community labs, schools? Who was it for? And this was indeed a problem we had at the early stages of a project last year, with this slide being from the UK meetup. We just targeted everybody because we didn't know who to target. We said schools, universities, community labs, hospitals, everybody. But when you target everybody, you're designing your product blindly, basically, because you don't have specifications for it. So the way we solved it is we said, okay, let's choose research labs. So we went to our molecular biology department, and we pitched our product to all the PIs there. And basically they said, well, I see how you guys think your product being cheaper than what's out in the market is a big selling point, but for us, it really isn't. We prefer overspending thousands of pounds and making sure that whatever data it is we're producing, it's very accurate, rather than saving on money and then having doubts about our data. So if you're going with that big selling point, nobody's going to buy your thing if you're aiming as research labs. And apart from us saying, oh shit, then they told us, but we really, really, really want this for our open days. Like, shut up and take our money kind of want it right now. And open days are a huge thing in the UK because this is how universities sell their courses, make sure students come, and then they survive. Because if you manage to get the attention of the student, he says, okay, that's where I'm going to study. And I found out why they wanted our machine, because when I worked for their open days, like here in the picture, all the benches, all the activities, they all had one machine that was switched off and people could only see but not touch and interact. With OpenLax, people can interact. They can load the wells, they can do the readings. And if something breaks, if someone breaks anything, it's very cheap to replace it and you can just do it yourself. So this is how we ended up saying, okay, OpenLax is a learning kit, and we go with the motto of build, experiment, learn. Build for engineering students, because we will target open days and then schools, because if you follow our instructions and 3D designs, you can build it yourself and then experiment when it's all together as a biology student. And then my second point, which is start with the end game in mind. What do you want your wiki to look like when it's all said and done? So, what content do you want to be there? How do you want to structure your content? What theme? And then ask the question of, okay, what do I need to have this end game picture? And who does it? When? So starting with choosing a content and the structure. On the left, that's just an example of what we did last year. A lot of room for improvement. But you can see our main pages, which is the homepage, project, human practices, et cetera, et cetera. So first you have to think, okay, what am I required to have by the competition? And then what looks cool, but then also what makes it the easiest for the judge to find what they want and then navigate back and forth, because literally every single click matters. And then we move from every single click matters to every single pixel matters. Because the layout, choosing a layout, you have to make sure you choose something that looks very nice to the eye. Because I can tell you from my 2 years of experience as a judge, having to judge 12 projects in one jamboree is just not enough time. Especially if you have your own team as well, there just isn't enough time. So you're reading through wikis very fast. So if it takes too many clicks to get what I won't be happy. And that will be reflected, on how I judge. Same for how the layout is. So this is from Printeria. Everybody uses this example. Beautiful wiki from Valencia, 2018. And I loved how clean everything is, how very well structured and defined. You have the main body of text, you have your menu. And when I saw this wiki, I'm like, that's it. Like, I'm in love. Next wiki I make, it's gonna be like this. And this is how we did the OpenLax wiki. Again, you see the main body and the menu on the left, and then everything just so clear and well defined. Then we go to the sexy bit, which is choosing a style. So last year we went with something called photorealism, which means just that the light plays tricks on you and you think it's real, but it's just a 3D model. Choose what you want. You can choose, abstract themes, cartoon, you can choose a Star Wars theme, just whatever you choose, make sure it's a well-informed choice. You actively think about it. It's not just something that was decided randomly because the guy who was making the wiki or the girl They just like that thing. And what does this mean? How does this translate, choosing a theme, into the actual wiki? So when I knew that it was photorealism, the style, I said, okay, who's the best photorealism style using company, person, wiki, not wiki, company, website? And Apple is the first thing that came to mind. So I was looking at this and I thought, what if we take two of our machines next to each other at an angle, one black, one white, and we put a laptop in the very center of it? I think that would look cool. So I give these specifications for the model to one of our engineers, and he comes back with this. And I go, now this is sexy. And this is just an example of the many things we use to design things going forward. My next point is photograph everything. One of the best ways to represent a category or some information is photographs. So this photograph is us going into one of these research labs and saying, hey, can you guys show us the microplate reader that you're using this moment and tell us a bit about your experience with it? So that was us basically trying to check up on competition and make sure our thing was better. So try to think beforehand for how many different things you want the picture for, and then think, how do you want to set up the picture, right? The design of the picture, and then take as many as you can, because you just never know when you're gonna need this. But a caveat, an asterisk, don't upload too big of a file on the iGEM servers, because as the judges will be jumping from one page to the next, they really don't want a picture that takes like 4 or 5 seconds to load. That's just too much time. And my last point for number 2 is a roadmap. Please, please, please try to envision the entire roadmap that you have before starting, so you know where you are and when you want to go and be. That's one of the first roadmaps / timelines that I did for my team last year. And you have like a theme for every single month. Different countries start in different months, but in the UK, we start in July. And July, that was the prototyping month. And then in August, that was the testing month. Because what I was trying to do with this theme is that one of the biggest problems that I've seen in iGEM projects is that by the time Boston comes, the team barely has had enough time to finish building a prototype. We're not even talking about a functional prototype. They just had enough time to finish building one. So I wanted to address this. So I said, no, the 31st of July, we will have a prototype, even if it's not functional. And then August will be about making it functional and changing the variables under which it remains functional. And then that leaves September for the wiki. And then obviously October, there's the wiki freeze and the jamboree. So please, please, please set end of the month goals and milestones to reach these goals, so you know where you are when you want to be and how far from that you are. So my third point is judging. The rubric. Read it, learn it by heart, talk about it with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones, sleep with it if you have to. Just please, please, please make sure you remember it throughout the entire project, and you do not underestimate it, and you understand what it means and what it wants. We were in Boston and we're finishing our presentation, and I was sitting there in the audience and thought, one of the rubric questions says, how much is it helping synthetic biology, the project? And I thought that the only place on our wiki that we address this, we answer this question, is a paragraph in our description. And I think, ouch, I think we should have made it part of our main branding, not just, oh, by the way, here's a paragraph, but rather we're making a teaching tool, a learning kit that promotes synthetic biology. And then I thought, but nobody will pick this up, right? It'll just be fine. Well, it wasn't, obviously. And a judge she asked, hey, I see why microplate reader helps synthetic biology, but you should really make it explicit. You should really make sure, it's in our face why your project helps synthetic biology. So please, 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 don't do what we did. And then another thing is the content and how you structure it. So all the red things are things I would change and I would move around, because it has to be intuitive, yes, but as I said before, every single click matters. And our biggest problem was this. We had a judging hub because for some reason I liked it. And every time a judge wanted to see our medals, for example, you had to click onto judging, wait for the page to load, and then click on medals, and then read that page. So if you want to go from medals to human practices and read something, if you want to go back to medals, you have to go through judging again. And that's not a nice thing to do. So please, please, please make sure that every click you do, this doesn't happen. Every click you plan. So this is it. This is the presentation. And yeah, any questions you have, I'll happily reply, answer. There we go. It's gonna turn. Athena, please tell me you did record.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the wiki? Or if you want to share, how are you doing with the...
Well, I want to ask something to the, by the way, I'm looking there because that's where all your faces or names are. Has anybody started on their wiki right now? Anybody? Okay. I'll pick a name. Oh, there we go. Kuba.
Hi. So thank you for this presentation. It was really, really nice and interesting. We have started working on our wiki as well. And I have a question. Do you have any advice to make a wiki page stand out a little bit? Of course, keeping it simple, but I have seen that many wiki pages share the same, in a way, ideas, for example, for a homepage. Do you have some advice to make it stand out a little bit, to be maybe to make it stand out?
So I guess you have to keep in mind, what are you trying to do with the wiki? Obviously, the primary goal has to be the judges, which is just very easily taken care of. Just put the URLs and make sure navigation is stupidly easy. But then a lot of my students have used the wiki they made to show off to their, the employers they apply to after uni for jobs. So I don't know how many wikis you've seen to say, hey, the homepage is more or less the same, because I think the homepage is one thing that there are no requirements, so you can do whatever it is you want. The way I solve this is, and the way I try to address this very question when I was thinking of a design for OpenLux for last year. I said, okay, who are the best in the world at making websites that stand out or products that stand out marketing wise? And then let's try and see what they did and try and learn some things from them. Again, another example that I did is it? No, there we go. Is this. The moment, so this is our machine, our OpenLux box. And I knew the lid was gonna be white, because that's just the only material we had, it was gonna be white. So when I saw it, the only question was, where do we place the logos? And when I saw this shape of a box, that's the first thing that came to my mind, my iPhone 6s box. So, obviously you can see how the logos and the name translate into our product. So my way of dealing with that question is to look at the best in the world at doing what I'm trying to do, and then try and learn things from them. I hope it works for you too. But yeah, you can also check a few wikis that got best wiki. And I guess you can check the OpenLux Sheffield iGEM 2019 to see how we've tried to address your question with my kind of mindset in mind. How do the best people do it and how can we do it?
Okay, thank you.
Great. Anyone else?
One thing because we had the registry session before, make sure nothing goes wrong with things you do on the registry, because it doesn't matter if you tried, if you can't. So I had this team that was saying that they characterized a part, a biobrick, and it's already on there, but then it's too hard to know when the previous team's input stops and when the next year's entry is. So it was hard for me to prove that, hey, it was that team that did it. And some teams may try to say, no, this happened and this, so